Yeah. Hair flip, yeah, I'm a badass bitch. I don't like it. Hair flip, yeah. Oh my god. So you guys should be happy. Oh my goodness. Hair flip. But anyways, hair flip. And hair flipping on these hoes. Hi.
Mr. Jackson?
In 1993, Los Angeles dentist and screenwriter Evan Chandler publicly accused American singer Michael Jackson of sexually abusing his 13-year-old son, Jordan Christopher Jordy Chandler. Case files state the relationship between Jackson and Jordan began in February 1993, but other sources cite May 1992. Jordan's stepfather, car dealer David Schwartz, introduced Jordan to Jackson after Jackson rented a vehicle from Schwartz dealership. Chandler initially encouraged the friendship. However, Chandler later confronted his ex-wife June, who had custody of Jordan, with suspicions that their son had been in an inappropriate relationship with Jackson. June dismissed the idea. On July 15th, Dr. Mathis Abrams, a psychiatrist, sent a letter to Chandler's attorney, Barry Rothman, stating there was a reasonable suspicion of sexual abuse. Abrams wrote that if there was a child abuse claim, he would be required by the law to contact the Los Angeles County Department of Children's Services on August 4th. Chandler and Jordan met with Jackson and Anthony Pelicano, Jackson's private investigator, and Chandler read out Abrams' letter. He opened negotiations to resolve the issue with a financial settlement. Chandler and Rothman had rejected a $350,000 offer from Jackson. On September 14th, 1993, the Chandlers filed a lawsuit against Jackson for sexual battery, seduction, willful misconduct, intentional infliction of emotional distress, fraud, and negligence.
About a child, that made me feel really mad.
When you'd have sleepovers and you'd stay in the same room or the same bed, did that seem unusual to you at all?
No, because I slept on one side of the bed, he slept on the other, and that was that.
For the second night, Jackson's postponed a concert in Bangkok,
London, but first we go to Kitty Pilgrim at the New York Stock Exchange. Kitty? Abuse charges against the pop star is widening. The sources say investigators have interviewed more than one child in the case, but there's no word whether they found any evidence against Jackson. Jackson has postponed a sold-out show in Bangkok a second time, but his publicist says the singer's Asian tour will go on. Mark Austin has more.
At Michael Jackson's hotel this morning, flowers, gifts and get-well messages poured in, but soon came the announcement that the beleaguered singer had postponed his Bangkok show yet again. At a hastily arranged press conference, concert promoters played a taped message from the superstar's sickbed.
I'm sorry for not performing yesterday as I am really sick and still under medical treatment. I have been instructed by my doctor not to perform before Friday, August 27, 1993. I promise all my fans to perform at the National Stadium in Bangkok on August 27th. I will see you all on Friday. I love you all. Goodbye.
But concerning the allegations of sexual abuse of a 13-year-old boy, neither Jackson nor his lawyer are saying anything.
I really don't want to answer those kinds of questions for you. I'm sorry.
The allegations affected Jackson's public image and commercial standing, and several endorsement deals were canceled, including Jackson's decade-long Pepsi endorsement. Similar allegations were made by other parties in 2005, leading to a trial which Jackson was found not guilty. In November 2009, 5 months after Jackson's death, Evan Chandler was found dead from suicide by a gunshot at his luxurious apartment in Jersey City, New Jersey, after several years of depression and estrangement from his family. Now, I'm not here to say that Jordan's father was not lying on Micheal Jackson. That is a very high possibility, especially with him being depressed for so long while Micheal Jackson was alive and taking his life not too long after Micheal Jackson passed away. So it's very telling. Definitely could be, you know, like I said, a high chance that this did not happen. But where there's smoke, there's definitely fire. So just because one person came forward, or maybe two, and accused Micheal Jackson of doing something sexually to them that he probably didn't do, does not mean that the other victims were not telling the truth. Just because you have people trying to take a money grab does not mean that all victims were trying to do that. There are victims that are documented that has never requested any type of money. They just wanted to report a crime that was done due to traumatization from Micheal Jackson. If you don't believe me, if you don't believe others, I understand his sister LATOYA was not the most credible person, but she did not lie in this next clip when she states that Micheal Jackson's family, his mother Catherine especially, was writing out checks to families that were coming to them off the record and paying them for sexual abuse allegations, and Micheal Jackson and his family kept them quiet by giving them monetization. So let's get into this next clip of LATOYA Jackson.
Israeli city of Tel Aviv, where she was on a tour that's suffering from poor attendance. An emotionally charged LATOYA had this to say.
I must tell you that this is very difficult for me, that Micheal is my brother. I love him a great deal, but I cannot and I will not be a silent collaborator of his crimes against small, innocent children. And if I remain silent, then that means that I feel the guilt and the humiliation that these children are feeling, and I think it's very wrong. I have seen checks payable to the parents of these children. And I don't know if these children were apparently brought to the parents by Micheal or not. But I have seen these checks, and I've seen these checks through my mother. She showed me these checks that Micheal had written to these children, and it's for a great amount. And I'm not speaking pennies. The sums are very, very large amounts. And this is my first time talking about it, and I never want to speak about it. I never want to say anything about it. But I think it's sad because I am a victim myself, and I know what it feels like. And these kids are going to be scarred for the rest of their life, and I don't want to see any more innocent small children being affected this way. I love Micheal very dearly, but I feel even more sorry for these children because they don't have a life anymore. They don't. Now you stop and you think for 1 second, and you tell me, what 35-year-old man is going to take a little boy and stay with him for 30 days, and take another boy and stay with him for 5 days, in a room and never leave the room? How many of you out there are 35 years old? How many men are out there? How many would take little kids and do that are 9, 10, 11 years old? I love my brother, but it's wrong. I don't want to see these kids hurt. I've been hurt by it too. My father molested me sexually, and I don't like it. I don't like the way it feels. And to this day, this is my husband, and he can vouch for this. I will not have a relationship with him because of that. But I love him dearly, but I cannot. Perhaps one day I will come to terms with it, and I will be able to. But for now, I can't do it. And that's what I don't want to see happen to these little kids, because I know what it feels like in the heart.
The Jackson family replied by saying that LATOYA makes her money from lying and was probably paid to speak out against her brother.
Los Angeles Police Department began a criminal investigation of the superstar, prompted by allegations of child abuse.
August 17th, the Los Angeles Police Department initiated a criminal investigation of entertainer Micheal Jackson. The department has been in contact with the Los Angeles County District Attorney's Office regarding this matter. Although we have confirmed the existence of the investigation, We have not disclosed any of the specifics publicly.
My deepest gratitude for your love and support. I am doing well and I am strong. As you may already know, after my tour ended, I remain out of the country undergoing treatment for a dependency on pain medication. This medication was initially prescribed to see the excruciating pain that I was suffering after recent reconstructive surgery on my scalp. There have been many disgusting statements made recently concerning allegations of improper conduct on my part. These statements about me are totally false. As I have maintained from the very beginning, I am hoping for a speedy end to this horrifying experience to which I have been subjected. I shall not in this statement respond to all of the false allegations being made against me, since my lawyers have advised me that this is not the proper forum in which to do that. I will say that I am particularly upset by the handling of this mass matter by the incredible, terrible mass media. At every opportunity, the media has dissected and manipulated these allegations to reach their own conclusions. I ask all of you to wait and hear the truth before you label or condemn me. Don't treat me like a criminal, because I am innocent. I have been forced to submit to a dehumanizing and humiliating examination by the Santa Barbara County Sheriff Department and the Los Angeles Police Department earlier this week. They served a search warrant on me which allowed them to view and photograph my body, including my penis, my buttocks, my lower torso, thighs, and any other area that they wanted. They were supposedly looking for any discoloration, spotting, blotches, or other evidence of a skin color disorder called vitiligo, which I have previously spoken about. The warrant also directed me to cooperate in any examination of my body by their physician to determine the condition of my skin, including whether I have vitiligo or any other skin disorder. The warrant further stated that I had no right to refuse the examination or photographs, and if I failed to cooperate with them, they would introduce that refusal at any trial as an indication of my guilt. It was the most humiliating ordeal of my life, one that no person should ever have to suffer. And even after experiencing the indignity of this search, the parties involved were still not satisfied and wanted to take even more pictures. It was a nightmare, a horrifying nightmare. But if this is what I have to endure to prove my innocence, my complete innocence, so be it. Throughout my life, I have only tried to help thousands upon thousands of children to live happy lives. It brings tears to my eyes when I see any child who suffers. I am not guilty of these allegations, but if I am guilty of anything, it is of giving all that I have to give to help children all over the world. It is of loving children of all ages and races. It is of gaining sheer joy from seeing children with their innocent and smiling faces. It is of enjoying through them the childhood that I missed myself. If I am guilty of anything, it is of believing what God said about children. Suffer little children to come unto me, and forbid them not, for such is the kingdom of heaven. In no way do I think that I am God, but I do try to be God-like in my heart. I am totally innocent of any wrongdoing, and I know these terrible allegations will all be proven false. Again, to my friends and fans, thank you very much for all of your support. Together, we will see this through to the very end.
Trying to take away my pride, but I went through the whole system with them, and at the end, I wanted the public to know that I was okay, even though I was hurting.
What happened when they arrested you? What did they do to you?
They were supposed to go in and just check fingerprints and do the whole thing that they do when they take somebody in. They manhandled me very roughly. My shoulder is dislocated, literally. It's hurting me very badly. I'm in pain all the time. See this arm? This is as far as I can reach it. Same with this side over here.
Because of what happened at the police station?
Yeah, at the police station. And what they did to, if you saw what they did to my arms, It was very bad what they did. It was very swollen. I don't want to say.
But how
You'll see, you'll see.
We were given this photograph said to be taken after Michael Jackson was released on bail. Jackson says the swelling above his wrist is where the police handcuffed him.
How did they do it? I mean, what did they do?
With the handcuffs, the way they tied them too tight behind my back.
Behind your back?
Yeah, and they put it in a certain position, knowing that it's going to hurt and affect my back. Now I can't move. It keeps me from sleeping at night. I can't sleep at night.
And Jackson says there was more.
One time I asked to use the restroom, and they said, sure, it's right around the corner there. Once I went in the restroom, they locked me in there for like 45 minutes. There was doo-doo, feces thrown all over the walls, the floor, the ceiling, and it stunk so bad. Then one of the policemen came by the window and he made a sarcastic remark. He said, does it smell good enough for you in there? How do you like the smell? Is it good? And I just simply said, it's all right. It's okay. So I just sat there and waited.
For 45 minutes?
Yeah, for 45 minutes, about 45 minutes. And then one cop would come by and say, oh, you'll be out in a second. You'll be out in a second. Then there would be another 10 minutes added on, then another 15 minutes added on. They did this on purpose.
Michael Jackson has stated that he is not gay. He is not a homosexual male. But here's the thing. Michael got married to Lisa Marie Presley around the time where all of these allegations were coming out about him. Michael married Lisa Marie to prove to people that he had attraction towards women, but there was actually no proof besides the fact of them being together on paper and a couple public appearances. Let's get into these next clip and I will be right back to let you know how I feel about set commentary.
I'm very happy to be here. And just think, nobody thought this would last.
May 26, 1994, smack in the middle of the child molestation allegations, Michael Jackson marries Lisa Marie Presley.
Lisa Marie came into the picture really surprisingly and suddenly. She loved Michael Jackson. She was crazy about him.
He could not wait to have the grandchildren of the King of Rock.
He always wanted to have children. From the time when I managed him in the 80s, he would ask me questions about how I raised my own children and what I thought and what it was like.
I think in the beginning, Lisa thought, that may be a possibility, but they never actually slept together. And I think somewhere along the line, she realized, if we're not sleeping together, I don't want to have children with him. On January 18th, 1996, they're divorced. Didn't last very long.
Lisa Marie went on record to let everyone know that she was very infatuated with Michael Jackson. She was attracted to him and it was a whirlwind romance. But a problem came in when it came to the bedroom. Lisa Marie Presley and Michael Jackson never consummated their marriage, meaning they never had sex. So with Michael Jackson using Lisa Marie, Elvis Presley's daughter, as a trophy, if you will, to throw in people's face to say, look, I love women, I'm married, here's proof that I am not, sexually abusing children. But with him not being intimate with her and never having sex with her, it was very telling once again. And to let everybody know what they needed to know about Michael Jackson is that he was not attracted to women. When a man is heterosexual and attracted to women, he has sex with them. And with Michael Jackson being as famous as he was, he would have had a plethora of women. Look at men like Usher and, other famous entertainers that sing R&B, Tyrese and others that were very promiscuous. They had a lot of women groupies. Michael Jackson's brothers and the Jackson 5, as they grew up, they had sex with a lot of girls. Michael never did. He never had sex with any women. When Michael Jackson passed away, no one even still to this day can prove that he ever had sex with a woman.
She can't stop. She can't stop her from making There's nothing you can do.
Some chamomile tea over there that might settle it down. Of course, problem is it might put you to sleep. You're welcome. Mr. Jackson,
In the latter portion of 1993, there were some allegations leveled at you concerning improper conduct with some young boys. I assume you're familiar.
Right now, what is going on is Michael Jackson is at a deposition and being questioned about a lot of the allegations that people have brought up on him throughout the years of alleged sexual abuse on children. Michael is laughing, he's smiling, which is very disrespectful when you are sitting down to talk about some very serious allegations. His lawyer was trying, to hint to him like, stop laughing, stop smiling. But Michael, he looked at it as a joke. So here's where the police brutality allegedly from Michael Jackson started. There's a rumor that went around that Michael Jackson stated, and we're going to get into that as well in this video, that the police department treated him very badly, that they were very rough with him, that they left him in a bathroom for almost an hour with feces everywhere. And it's alleged they did it because Michael Jackson did not take this very seriously. It was like he was laughing in the face of the police officers while feeling that he was definitely going to get away once again with sexual abuse towards children. So the police department allegedly was fed up with Michael and his shenanigans when it came to him not taking these charges serious at all, because he felt that I'm a high-ranged entertainer. I have so much money to where I know for a fact that I'm walking out of here. And it was very cocky, and the police did not like the energy that Michael was giving. Once again, pay attention to Michael's body language, how he laughs, and pay attention to the questioning that is going on while he is acting goofy and eccentric.
The latter portion of 1993, there were some allegations leveled at you concerning improper conduct with some young boys. I assume you're familiar with the fact that those allegations were raised. Is that right?
Yes.
In fact, there was ultimately at least 2 grand jury inquiries into that I am currently aware of, although counsel tells me there may have been a 3rd. Were you aware that grand jury investigations were conducted into those allegations?
Yes.
Strike that. Did you know at the time that the grand jury was investigating these matters that they were in fact investigating? In other words, you didn't find out after it had completed. You knew in advance that people were being subpoenaed to testify.
In advance?
Yeah, poorly phrased. Let me rephrase it. It is my understanding that some of Neverland Valley Ranch employees were subpoenaed to testify before the grand jury. Do you know that to be the case as well?
Yes.
Are you familiar with a person named Jordy Chandler?
We're not going there. Don't answer. We're not going to get into who he knows and doesn't know. If you want to ask a question, go ahead and ask it. But I believe it's beyond the scope of discoverable matters in the case.
Whether he knows of Jordy Chandler?
Right.
You're not going to allow me to ask him any questions about Jordan Chandler in any fashion?
We'll take him one by one, but...
Well, I can't ask him whether he knows him. I suppose that would sort of preclude other ones, don't you think?
Yeah, probably would.
And may I ask for the record what the basis upon which you are going to refuse to allow this witness to disclose whether he knows Mr. Jordan Chandler? As you know, counsel, during the course of discovery in this case, you have already gone into, and I think Mr. Sanger has already gone into, at some depth, a deposition that was taken in the case of Jordy Chandler versus Michael Jackson, given by Adrian McManus. There are issues that are certainly relevant to my interest as to why you inquired as to those depositions that Adrian gave. And you're now telling me I can't even ask whether he knows the man or go into any such areas?
Yeah, let me
Isn't there a quote that comes to mind of what's good for the goose is good for the gander?
Oh, come on, counsel. What?
Aesop's fame.
Let me just make sure my understanding is clear. Is it your position that you will instruct Mr. Jackson not to answer any questions that pertain to the issue of Jordy Chandler in any way, whether it be claims leveled by Jordy Chandler, if any, or discovery in the Jordy Chandler case vis-a-vis Adrienne McManus's deposition and allegations that she testified falsely, any of that you're not going to let him go into?
That's right. I believe that's correct. With respect to the motivations that are, in your view, germane to the allegations made in the complaint, my client has testified that he knows nothing about those matters that you want to explore his motivations on. So therefore, there's a lack of foundation. But let's just go do what you want to do.
You've raised something that sort of catches me by surprise. You say your client has testified that he knows nothing about these matters. Is this at today's deposition you're referring to, or some other deposition that I was not present at?
Today.
That is strange, since I've not asked about that issue until just now. I have not asked about the allegations specifically. I have asked about investigation. Were you aware that Jordan Chandler or his family on his behalf filed a lawsuit against you?
Yes.
Okay. Were you aware that at some point in time in that lawsuit, Adrienne McManus gave her deposition?
I'm not positive.
Your answer confuses me. How do you mean you're not positive? You don't know whether she gave her deposition or not?
Exactly.
So then, if I understand it correctly, you are not going to allow me to go into any areas in connection with Brett Barnes. Is that right?
Well, you can ask. There's nothing I can think of, but if you... I'm not going to categorically say you can't ask anything about him, but I don't think there's anything relevant. So irrelevant that I'm not inclined to let you get into it unless there's an area that you believe is directly tied to the case.
Well, I believe it, but I have a feeling that my believing it's not going to convince you of much. To your knowledge, Mr. Jackson, were you ever accused of having sexually molested Brett Barnes?
Won't answer that.
Do you know a person by the name of Macaulay Culkin?
Yes.
No.
Get your answer.
So you're going to let him answer questions about Macaulay Culkin?
Let him answer that one.
To your knowledge, were you ever accused of having sexually molested Macaulay?
Oh. That's an instruction not to answer on that one.
This is as good a copy of the document as I have available to me at this time. Let me ask you this. Do you recognize the handwriting on these two sheets?
Yes.
Do you know whose handwriting it is?
It's mine.
Do you know what these documents are?
Yeah.
What is this?
Crazy stories that people have created. Things I wanted to set straight in an interview.
Do you know with whom this interview was?
I think it could have been Diane Sawyer, whatever the interview was that I wanted to do. I wanted to set the record straight, that if people hear a lie long enough, people believe it, that people have lied on me. I'm a black American and I'm proud of it, and I'm honored of it. The bleached skin rumor, which is a rumor, I don't bleach my skin. They once said I wanted a white kid to play me as a child, which was a rumor. Inauguration rumor, saying I didn't want to do President Clinton's inauguration. I'm not gay. This says, don't judge a person unless you have spoken to them one-on-one, which is true. because what you hear is a lie, untrue. I can't make out this part there.
It is illegible in portions, that's true.
And Jesus said to love the children and be like children. Be youthful and be innocent and be pure and honorable. He was talking to his apostles, and they were fighting over who's the greatest among themselves. And he said, whoever humbled yourself like this child is the greatest among me. And he always surrounded himself with children. And that's how I was raised, to believe and to be like that and to imitate that. So I don't know what you're trying to make out of it.
Around this time, Michael was divorcing Lisa Marie and was moving on to Debbie Rowe, the mother of his children. But that still did not stop the allegations from coming forward. There were still young boys and young men, teenagers, coming forth stating that Michael Jackson had allegedly sexually abused them. There was a 15-year-old boy from Canada that came forward with accusations and never wanted any financial compensation, but still stuck to his story and had more than enough proof that he was molested by Michael Jackson allegedly. But here's the thing. People started to be skeptical of his story, and I believe the main reason why is because he was not requesting any financial gain. So people found it weird. And not only that, he was homeless. So there was a lot of things that people were still trying to piece together. And not only that, he also made the accusations with an older male. And we're going to get into him as well. Now let's get into these next clips.
He was molested by the superstar. But when our Diane Diamond began to investigate, she uncovered a trail of lies. Diane?
Terry, ever since the Michael Jackson child molestation scandal broke, we've gotten a constant stream of calls and letters from people making dubious claims about the singer. Frankly, we ignore most of them. But when I heard the facts of this story, I just had to go to Canada and check it out myself.
And I'd like to make a confession about something that happened between me and Michael Jackson.
He is only 15 years old, so we can't show you his face or let you hear his real name. But the 11-minute home video he sent hard copy several weeks ago could have become Michael Jackson's worst nightmare. Looking straight into the camera, using no notes, this boy proceeded to tell us in graphic detail how he and another teen were allegedly molested by the superstar.
Like, he started just touching like our stomach and things, like he'd rub our stomach and then he'd get lower, and then that's when I started saying, like, what are you doing? He said, it's okay, don't worry, bodies are meant to be touched.
But the boy wasn't acting on his own. He had help. A man who identified himself as John Templeton of Mississauga, Canada. That's a suburb of Toronto. He sent us the boy's videotape statement and even called several times to make sure we looked at it. Then I got a call from the boy himself.
Diane Diamond.
Over the next few days, I spoke with the boy for hours, and he never wavered. His story stayed consistent. The boy said he met Michael Jackson at a Canadian video arcade. He said he was supposed to spend the weekend with a friend, but when Jackson invited him to visit Neverland instead, off they flew in a private jet. This 15-year-old described in detail the people in Jackson's entourage, the layout of the ranch, and even Jackson's family home at Encino. Later, he would draw us incredibly detailed maps of both Jackson homes. It was clear either the boy was telling the truth or he had been well coached. To get to meet the boy and John Templeton in Toronto.
Why they think Roe and Jackson are a perfect match. Rick Schwartz with that story.
She's basically a person she's very nurturing.
Matt Ehrlich is talking about their friend Deborah Rowe, the woman who's pregnant with Michael Jackson's child. Ehrlich, a salesman, and girlfriend Amy Kahn, a photographer, live down the hall from Rowe in this LA apartment complex. Matt and Amy say they spent time with Rowe at her apartment last night and claim she's one of the most popular tenants.
She kind of really watches out for people.
She's sort of the queen mother of the apartment building.
You could say that.
Friends say that having Michael Jackson's baby hasn't changed Deborah Rowe. She's still living in this modest apartment complex in Sherman Oaks, California, where rents run about $1,000 a month. And those same friends insist that she's still working at her job while trying to live a normal life.
She does like to read Stephen King novels. She loves to watch The X-Files.
Ehrlich says Rowe met the superstar 15 years ago at the office of Dr. Arnold Klein, a Los Angeles dermatologist where Jackson was treated for vitiligo, a skin lightening disorder. The 37-year-old Roe is Klein's receptionist.
She did this out of friendship, and she is really not receiving anything in return.
The boy and John Templeton in Toronto. The plan was to meet the pair in the lobby of an airport hotel, but when I arrived, the only one to greet me was the young boy. He came with me into town and told me that he lived on the streets of Toronto, in a section called Boys Town, where the street kids gather. He explained that his mother had kicked him out of the house and that John Templeton was just a man he'd met on the streets.
He kind of helps the street kids, like just talks to them and things, like sort of like the guidance counselor of the street. That's what it seemed like.
The boy appeared to be on his own. There was no sign of John Templeton, and frankly, that seemed suspicious. But over the next few days, a hard copy team conducted hours of interviews with the boy. Standing by were police officials in both California and Toronto. They were waiting to conduct their own investigation of the boy's charges.
Hi, my name is Frank Grimes. I work for the TV show Hard Copy.
Producer Frank Grimes and I worked to check out countless pieces of information the boy gave us. While sources were able to confirm much of what he said, there were some troubling inconsistencies. Still, the boy stubbornly stuck by his story, and he had an incredible knowledge of Michael Jackson's lifestyle.
He showed me this place, like a saddle shop, where he said he gets stuff for his animals there. I don't know what he got, but...
Like a saddle shop. I see that on your map here.
Yeah.
People are going to think that you're out for his money.
I don't care about his money.
They're going to think you're making it up.
Yeah, I know, but I don't care about his money. He can keep it.
You tell him the absolute truth.
Yeah.
He talked for hours, and he knew so much. So much, in fact, that we thought, well, let's give him a test, to see if we could trip him up.
We showed the boy several photographs. Some of them were of Neverland employees, and he was able to identify each and every one of them.
Yeah, that's him. The way old school, that's him.
If this was a scam, this boy had really done his homework. He even went so far as to draw us a picture of what he said Michael Jackson looked like during the alleged molestation, to his claims of molestation.
Once again, the accusations did not stop. We have another young man here that came forward from the UK and stated that when he did an interview with Michael Jackson, he masturbated, allegedly, while on the phone with him, and he was only 13 years old at the time. Check out these next clips.
I was a little bit cheeky, but I think I was a little bit naive as well, looking back.
Terry George says he was 13 and a keen collector of celebrity interviews when he met Michael in Leeds in the north of England. For the rest of the Jacksons, it was just another stop on their 1979 European tour. But for Michael, says Terry George, it was a chance to make a new friend.
What is your name?
Michael Jackson.
Michael would tour all over the world. There were little boys everywhere that would come to the hotels.
And what is your job?
I'm a singer.
I didn't really mingle with other people. I didn't really have a lot of friends then.
Determined to interview his idol, Terry says he found out where the Jacksons were staying. Then, armed with Michael's hotel room number and a tape recorder, he simply knocked on his door.
What do you like most? Things that you like?
I like kids a lot.
Wow. It's certainly a lot smaller than it ever was. It's feels like it's been totally restructured. Michael said, "Who is it?" And I said, "Oh, my name's Terry. I've come to do an interview." And then he opened the door and says, "Oh," he looked a bit shocked to see me, really. He's probably looking at this level. I was down here somewhere. I came into the room and I was sat on this bed here. The gap seemed much bigger as well because I had my tape recorder down there.
Terry George says that at the end of the interview, he and Michael Jackson swapped phone numbers.
Him giving me his number and asking for mine didn't really feel strange at all. It was great. It was a thrill. It was, I was happy to be in touch with a celebrity.
After the tour left Britain, Terry George says that Michael Jackson started calling 2 or 3 times a week, and they had friendly conversations about their lives.
His calls came quite late at night, normally anything from 11 in the evening, 10 in the evening, right through to 5 o'clock in the morning on some occasions.
And then one night, he says Michael made a call that Terry has never forgotten.
I had phone sex with Jacko, is what the press wrote.
I met with Terry George to hear his account of what really happened that night.
He spoke about masturbation. About him masturbating. Did I masturbate? I never saw it coming. It wasn't something I expected. It just came out of the blue, really. He said, would you believe that I'm doing it now? And let me hear him on the telephone. I could hear it. And what did you think he meant by that? Well, I knew what he meant by that because he was talking about it. He was talking about masturbation. I did feel uncomfortable. I can remember feeling uncomfortable. I felt awkward. What are your thoughts when you put the phone down? I thought that I didn't react as he wanted me to react. And I thought that perhaps he would never call me again, or I wouldn't hear from him again. You know, in hindsight, looking back at it now, I know that that type of conversation probably should never have happened, you know, and it probably wasn't natural.
Terry George says there were no more sexual conversations. In time, the two lost touch. Terry George's friendship with Michael Jackson was over. Investigated Michael Jackson say he ultimately rejects many of his young friends.
Michael Jackson changes his phone numbers. He's not available on the telephone anymore.
As soon as they appear to be a little bit more into puberty or that they have gotten their first facial hair,
he just moves on to the next little special.
When you're talking about children, we met Gavin. And it was a great privilege to meet Gavin because he's had a lot of suffering in his life.
Yeah.
When Gavin was there, he talked about the fact that he shares your bedroom.
Yes.
Can you understand why people would worry about that?
Because they're ignorant.
But is it really appropriate for a 44-year-old man to share a bedroom with a child who is not related to him at all?
That's a beautiful thing.
That's not a worrying thing?
Why should it be worrying? Who's the criminal? Who's Jack the Ripper in the room? This is a guy trying to help heal a child. I'm sleeping in a sleeping bag on the floor. I gave him the bed because he has a brother named Star. So him and Star took the bed, and I'm on the floor in the sleeping bag.
Did you ever sleep in the bed with them?
No. But I have slept in the bed with many children. I sleep in the bed with all of them. When Macaulay Culkin were little, Kieran Culkin would sleep on this side, Macaulay Culkin's on this side, his sister's in there. We're all just jamming the bed. And we wake up like dawn and go in a hot air balloon. You know, we have the footage. I have all that footage.
But is that right, Michael?
It's very right. It's very loving. That's what the world needs now. More love, more.
The world needs a man who's 44 sleeping in a bed with children.
No, you're making it all wrong.
Well, tell me, help me.
Because what's wrong with sharing a love? You don't sleep with your kids or some other kid who needs love, who didn't have a good childhood?
No, I don't. I would never dream of sleeping.
I would never dream. Because you've never been where I've been, mentally.
What do you think people would say if I said, well, I've invited some of my daughter's friends round or my son's friends round and they're going to sleep in the bed with me tonight?
That's fine.
What do you think their parents would say?
If they're wacky, they would say you can't. But if you're close family, like your family, you know them well, but
Michael, I wouldn't like my children to sleep in anybody else's bed.
Well, I wouldn't mind if I knew the person well, and if I'm very close to Barry Gibb, Paris and Prince can stay with him anytime. My children sleep with other people all the time.
And you're happy with that?
Fine with it. They're honest. They're sweet people. They're not Jack the Ripper.
I suppose the problem for many people is what happened in 1993, or what didn't happen.
What didn't happen?
Just cast your mind back. What was that like when you first heard the allegations that were being made against you?
It was shocking, and I'm not allowed to talk about this by way of law. So,
but how did you feel about what was being said? I'm not asking you to talk about what was said.
I was shocked because God knows in my heart how much I adore children.
But isn't that precisely the problem, that when you actually invite children into your bed, you never know what's going to happen?
But when you say bed, you're thinking sexual. They make that sexual. It's not sexual. But we're going to sleep. I tuck them in. I put a little music on, and a little storytelling. I read a book. It's very sweet. Put the fireplace on. We give them hot milk. You know, we have little cookies. It's very charming. Very sweet.
Sure.
It's what the whole world should do.
The reason that's been given for why you didn't go to jail was because you reached a financial settlement with the family.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to do a long, drawn-out thing on TV like OJ and all that stupid stuff. And it wouldn't look right. I just said, look, get this over with. I want to go on with my life. This is ridiculous. I've had enough.
Michael Jackson was very young when he became famous. He was a child star. But Michael lied about his age when he came out. He stated he was 2 years younger than what he actually was. Growing up a Jehovah's Witness, your life is going to be pretty strict growing up in any religious background. So to say that Michael Jackson missed out on his childhood is baloney. We do not get to do everything that we want to do as children, and there's certain things that we can't do as children, but it doesn't mean that we missed out on a childhood because we had different things to do. Going to church and things in that nature, there's a lot of neighbors that you grow up with and they don't go to church at all, so they have a lot of free time. But with you going to church 3-4 times a week, does that mean that you don't have a childhood because a few hours of your day is being took? Even going on tour and things in that nature, when Michael Jackson first came out with the Jackson 5, they still had plenty of time to be children. Having strict parents, forbid them from getting into a lot of trouble. So not getting in trouble or being at the park 24 hours a day does not mean that you did not have a childhood. That is an excuse. People enable Michael, because he was young when he was famous, to be around children and be okay with it and say, oh, well, he didn't have a childhood, so that's why he likes being around children. The Osmonds, Stevie Wonder, among a lot of other people, were famous at a very young age, but they were never brought up on molestation charges, or no one ever insinuated the fact that they molested. So that is an excuse for people to feel like him being Peter Pan and having Neverland is okay because he was robbed of a childhood or allegedly beat by his father. Does not excuse him being charged with sexual molestation against children. That is no excuse. So if you would not let Michael Jackson or any other adult share a bed with your child, why wouldn't you? Why is it okay for Michael to have been sharing beds with children and things in that nature when he's a stranger basically to them, besides meeting them a few times? Is okay. It's not okay. If you wouldn't let your child do it, it's because you don't trust the situation because of sexual abuse and other things that could happen in said situation. So why would these things not occur if these children were actually sleeping in the bed with him and he's admitted it on how many occasions? I'm once again not stating that Michael Jackson is like literally an abuser, but I'm stating that Michael Jackson was allegedly an abuser. Where there's smoke, there's fire, and these allegations did not come out of nowhere, and they were not made up just because Michael Jackson did not have a childhood or people wanted to try and sabotage him and get money. If Michael would have never let the children that close inside of their bedrooms and anything like that, these charges would have never came up. Right is right and wrong is wrong.
In 2 weeks, a large amount of ugly, malicious information has been released into the media about me. Apparently, this information was leaked through transcripts in a grand jury proceeding, where neither my lawyers nor I ever appeared. The information is disgusting and false. Years ago, I allowed a family to visit and spend some time at Neverland. Neverland is my home. I allowed this family into my home because they told me their son was ill with cancer and needed my help. Through the years, I have helped thousands of children who are ill or in distress. These events have caused a nightmare for my family, my children, and me. I never intend to place myself in so vulnerable a position ever again. I love my community, and I have great faith in our justice system. Please keep an open mind and let me have my day in court. I deserve a fair trial like every other American citizen.